Whether you're dreaming of becoming a lead teacher, stepping into your first director
Before
role,
you go,
or leading
ask
a
yourself,
thriving child care
what's
program
one
of your
leadership
own,
lesson you'll
you
put
don't
into
have to
action this
figure it out
week?
alone. Then share one
Welcome to
takeaway
the
with
Child
your
Care
leadership
Director's
team.
Chair,
Because
where a
Erica
leadership
believes
coach,
that great
speaker,
leaders don't just
co-author,
grow
and
themselves, they
multi-center
help
owner
others grow. Erica
too.
Sacoccio,
Ready to
shares
keep
the
growing?
wisdom she's
Join
gained
Erica
from decades
inside
of
a
leading
ECE
successful
Trailblazers
early childhood
leadership
programs and
membership
developing
at
future
Child Care
leaders.
Director's Chair.
Each episode is designed to
Proudly
help you use
sponsored
your
by
voice,
Watch Me Grow.
lead with
Together,
confidence,
we believe
build a
leadership
positive
isn't a
workplace
title,
culture,
it's an
and
action.
become the kind of
And we'll
leader
save your
your
chair for
team
next
is
time.
excited to follow. Expect real talk, big laughs, bold leadership truth, practical strategies, and the encouragement to believe in yourself every step of the way. Because when Erica teaches leadership, she's teaching what she's lived. The Child Care Director's Chair is proudly sponsored by Watch Me Grow, supporting childcare leaders with innovative technology that helps build stronger programs and stronger family connections. Together, they believe leadership isn't a title, it's an action. Pull up your chair, future leader. Here's Erica Sacoccio.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Child Care Director Chair podcast, where we have real conversations about leadership, teaching, workplace culture, professional growth, and what it truly takes to provide a high-quality early learning program. I'm your host, Erica Sacoccio, and today we're talking about supporting literacy in pre-K classrooms. Now, literacy is not simply teaching children the alphabet or writing their name. Early literacy includes listening, speaking, vocabulary, storytelling, rhyming, sound awareness, comprehension. We can kind of go on, print awareness, and helping children understand that words carry meaning. Our guests today are Melissa McCall and Alyssa Jewell, and we're going to talk about what directors and teachers need to understand about early literacy, how music and movement support language and development, and the inspiration behind their new song, and all the other things they have going on. So welcome to the Child Care Director's Chair, ladies.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful introduction.
Well, thanks. So we'll start with Melissa. Melissa, tell folks who are listening just a little bit about yourself and how you ended up here.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm Melissa McCall with Moving Little Minds. And I grew up with a background in special education. I was in the classroom for years and years, more in kindergarten. And when COVID hit, my sweet little daughter, Avery, was in kindergarten, and my son was at home with me. And we started doing some phonological awareness, and I transformed my kitchen into a preschool classroom. And my daughter would come over and listen to lots of different activities. We were clapping syllables, we were rhyming, and she couldn't do any of them. And here she was 3/4 the way through kindergarten. And I'm like, I have a master's in special ed. I've taught children to read. And so why couldn't I pick up on these flags? Why couldn't I help her? Long story short, there's a very long journey to getting her a diagnosis when she was in 3rd grade. But then I started to dig deeper and say, the signs were there. There were things in preschool that we, she couldn't. I thought for sure she would read because she had her names and her sounds. She couldn't. And so my passion for research and other things really led me to say, hey, what should we be doing at the preschool level? And then how can we make it fun and appropriate? So out of that merged Moving Little Minds, which we are dedicated to taking the science of reading, what children need to learn to read, but then making it appropriate and fun.
Okay. And I think so many moms that are listening right now, or even just educators, but so many parents can really relate to what you were saying, especially during, COVID teaching their own children. And oh my goodness, thank God you are an educator, but there were so many families that they only do what they would know to do. And so I think a lot of educators, I think, had really, I'm not going to use that word pivot because I'm sick of that word, but really just expanded their thought process on what education could look like, how could it move forward, and it started to go off into different areas. And so many educators started their own businesses. Some left education in the traditional sense, and now they're doing other things. So, Alyssa, tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. My name is Alyssa Jewell. I like to say I go professionally by La La Librarian. And I am an actual librarian. I have a bachelor's degree in theater education, so I'm also an educator, K through 12 certified. And I have my master's in library science. And I have been working in education and public library spaces for public libraries for 13, education for 18, I guess. And so I've done, at least 1,800 large group story times in my career, and probably more if you count classroom ones as well. So, yeah, I started doing music for kiddos with my husband when we had our own 2 kids. We, met doing music for grown-ups. And when I got into storytime spaces, I was using a lot of Laurie Berkner, a lot of Jim Gill, and I began to research more about how to integrate movement and music into public library and classroom story times, and really bringing those books to life and those concepts to life and putting the stuff on its feet, as we would say in theater ed. So my husband and I started making music for kids. We started calling it La La Librarian, and we've been doing that for a little over 2 years. And I'm just thrilled that so many people are using it. So I'm just really
awesome.
happy to be able to merge those two passions of mine, music and story time and early learning. And yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
love
how
it.
I'm here.
As an early childhood educator, I love when books come to life. And I'm
Yes.
very animated and very loud and very Italian. So I cannot help but be animated.
The best. I bet you do a
Ye-
great Stregonona. I bet you crush Stregonona.
All right, guys. So let's talk about literacy in pre-K. Let's begin with like the big picture. When we're talking about literacy in pre-K classrooms, what skills and experiences should we actually be talking about?
I'm gonna hand this to Melissa. Yeah, I'm gonna let Melissa take the reins here.
Yeah. So, literacy is all stem from oral language, right? So, I always say that preschool teachers, early childhood educators are like the superstars of the top part of the reading rope. Like, we talk to our children, we tell stories, we engage in play, we build that vocabulary. And so those are absolutely key to build that foundation. And then I always say on the other side of the rope are some of those skills that need more explicit teaching. And a lot of times this is where teachers might have some room for growth, like alphabetic knowledge, getting away from letter of the week, but teaching the alphabet as a whole and incorporating it throughout the day through play, through their names, phonological awareness, not just rhyming. Like a lot of times we just do rhyming and call it a day. Like, no, going deeper. And you can start doing those things with poetry in toddlers and twos classrooms and then building upon that. So, really looking at literacy as a whole, and then also saying not all the skills can be taught just through play and conversation and exposure, but how do we now teach those skills and make them fun so that they're building that part of the reading brain that they need without the drills and all that type of stuff.
Yeah. What are some common misunderstandings that directors, teachers, and families might have about what early literacy should look like?
Favorite question.
We just getting started.
Yeah.
Worksheets. A lot of time, we, especially families, they open the folder and they're like, there's nothing in here. Like, what'd you do all day? And so there's so much to literacy that can be done. I mean, we could, we can do a whole day without touching a worksheet. We can learn letter formation without touching a worksheet. And so I think that's the biggest misconception is that like we need to do these academic kindergarten readiness tasks, which include like pencil and paper and drilling, when really we can build all of these skills in a very play-based way.
Yeah. Can you give a couple examples of your favorite way to do that?
Sure. I'll go, Alyssa, and then I know you have some good ones too. Like my favorite when I think of phonological awareness is a puppet. So, a lot of programs do very explicit phonological awareness, which is great. We need both, but we can take a puppet and we can literally practice any skill under the sun. So, passing out play foods to all the children, and the puppet is hungry, and I'm so hungry. I want a banana. And then the child comes up and they're feeding the puppet the banana. Well, what did they just practiced? They are now blending syllables together. So that is just one example that a puppet is my best friend.
Love it.
I love a puppet. I have many examples. I have a professional development program called Storytime Central, and in there, the public librarians and the educators who are doing story times, we have a framework actually of techniques that will bring books to life. So these are all techniques rooted in theater education. But I mean, the number one is music for me. I mean, I think, language is processed in the left side of the brain, but music is processed in both. So when you can layer music with language, and I always like to remind people that if you don't feel comfortable singing, chanting is still musical. Rhythm is an incredibly important part of language, and you can absolutely use that even if you can't carry a tune. So anytime you can incorporate music, whether that's a singable book, which is probably my favorite, or some of just the fabulous songs, rhymes, finger plays, games with songs and call and response. All of those things are probably my favorite tools.
Yeah, those are great. The other thing too is music just lifts the mood.
Yes.
And right? So, I mean, when you're happy, you're engaged. So to me, I don't know, a lot of kids are like, yay, worksheets, but yay, dancing around and singing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I got one little boy, Jordan. Oh my God. He is always ready to do a song, a dance, or even if it's not singing time. But he lights up when you touch anything that has to do with music. What early language and literacy skills should teachers be observing throughout the day?
I'll let
Great
Melissa.
one.
Yeah.
So I think, oh goodness, all of them. But I think that really the easiest way, first of all, is to observe, is to be with that guided play, right? So taking that center time as an opportunity to sit and listen. Talking, you go over to, you've just read a story and now you have your felt board. Can you merge in a little bit of, ooh, tell me what happened in the middle. What was the problem? So, right there, you're evaluating text comprehension. Being observing as you're playing those games to say, I always say when I go back to my daughter, the signs were there because she does not have any phonological awareness. So looking, can she clap syllables? Can she rhyme? And then just, I'm not a speech pathologist, but that's one of the biggest first signs, right? Is, speech articulation and language. That will be a big one to observe, to also advocate for children if, because that's usually where a lot of the issues start to stem from.
Yeah. So to the teachers that are listening that maybe want to be like more intentional around the topic that we're talking about today, maybe can you give some tips on how teachers can move beyond asking children questions with one correct answer and begin having deeper conversations?
I'm partial, but I think books are, one of the best conversation starter tools that you could possibly use in a class, or songs that allow the children to complete the phrase or to sing their own. They can make up their own rhymes and lyrics. Those are all, great tools as well, I think.
I always like the advice I actually got from a speech language pathologist of like not peppering children with questions, but just telling your own story. So much of children love stories, and Alyssa, everybody's got something to share on that page. You
They
ask
sure do.
one question, and next thing you know, you're like, oh dear, we've got 20 different hands and
Yes.
children. But rather than just that peppering with questions. Like when I walk children out to carpool, instead of like, what'd you do today? Right? If you have children over young, what do they say? Nothing.
Nothing.
How was your day? Fine. So I changed it to like, the funniest thing happened to me today. And I started doing this with my own children too. And that they hear a story and then it sparks more conversation. So then rather than just like back and forth peppering, that kind of sparks more imagination or conversations. And then you get that back and forth, which is perfect for those brain connections, that serve and return type.
One of my favorite things, going back to your puppet, I love puppets too. And with serve and return, there a lot of schools will do like farm animal units. And, we know that for really young kids, making those farm animal sounds is like such a great exercise. And then even if they're shy to like formulate an entire sentence that their puppet might say, they could say it in a, ba 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 ba. There's a great book called Book by Deborah Bruss. And all the farm animals go into the library to ask for a book. And of course, the horse goes up to the librarian and says, nay, 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 nay. And the librarian has no idea what he's saying. And the sheep goes up and ba, 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 ba. And the pig is oink, 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 oink. Or, finally, everybody goes in. And then finally the chicken goes in. And the chicken says, bark, 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 bark.
I need this book.
And then the librarian goes, oh, you want a book? Bark. And everybody is happy except for the frog because he'd already read it.
Oh, I need this book.
So I love taking, something like that. And back to Melissa's idea of using a puppet is then they can have their own farm animal puppet or even make their own puppet and use their fine motor skills, right? And then improvise with you, even just using farm animal sounds. Right?
Yeah.
Or silly words. I think, a lot of us just really infusing everything with play and coming to, meeting them where they're at, right? And what they enjoy doing.
Yeah. I've never had a librarian on the show, so I'm very excited, Alyssa. I am very excited. Can you tell us, maybe if we go to the library, what maybe should be a couple good books that we should bring? Well, I mean, all books are good, but suggestions for books that we could take into our classrooms that might help young students, be able to do some of these aspects that you're talking about here.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know Melissa has a great list too. And, there are literally, over 3,000 picture books published every year. Okay. So it's in just like the US, Canada, so not to mention other parts of the world. And it is impossible, even for most librarians, to know, which ones are the best, right? And also, what's going to work for somebody might not work for somebody else as well. But there are certain ones, book is kind of what I call a modern classic. When Melissa and I put out the Move With Me phonics song, we also made a guide. So a good place to start would be if you're focusing specifically, using our song and focusing specifically on alphabet, we have actually my top 5 alphabet books for each age group, because Melissa really helped me understand how the alphabet is processed, through the toddler lens, through the 2s and 3s, the 4s, and then the 5 and 6-year-olds. So we have my top alphabet book picks for every single one. I think there's different techniques you want to use for different ages and different groups. So my personal favorite, book, that like crushes every time. I also love any book that will allow them to move and make sound effects and engage in what we call parallel play. So everybody's just playing the same part at the same time. I love a book called Toot Toot Zoom. It's about this goat, and he's going up a mountain, and he's in his car, so they can pretend to be in their cars, and they go toot toot zoom, toot toot zoom, toot toot screech, and they slam on their brakes, and he's he doesn't run into them, but he encounters thankfully he doesn't run. He encounters various different animals who then come in the car with him, and they go to the other side, and they actually wreck the car, but then it's okay because he went on the other side to look for some friends, and he found them anyway. So there's always some sort of books with good messages about friendship, working together, anything that can get them involved. There's really just too many to even rattle off, but you could get that free guide and I'll give you my top 20 on the ABCs at least.
Okay. All right. Good. We love resources.
Can I chime in on this one? Because,
yes, of course.
So in like my journey as trying to be teaching those intentional skills, more play-based also, I do literacy enrichment classes in preschools and bring a book. And so a lot of times I'm searching like syllable books. There's nothing out there for syllable books, right? So then breaking that barrier of like, we can teach these skills anytime with any book. Like you literally could just take the character's name. Like I was with the twos this week and we were reading Karen Katz's like Baby's Lost Beach Ball. And there was an octopus in there. I was like, octopus, that's a big word. Octopus. Clap it with me. And 2-year-olds are clapping that word. The Very Hungry Caterpillar. We are feeding the caterpillar the different foods at the end with the syllables. Or Peanut Butter and Cupcake. That's one of my favorite books. And that has tons of compound words in it. So, it just takes that little intentionality of knowing what your skill is that you want to do. And then literally a story can bring that skill to life. It's just having that mindset, right? Of like, what do I want to do with this book?
Yeah. Let's talk to the directors for a few moments. What should childcare directors look for when they walk into a classroom to observe the literacy environment?
I think it can look really different from what some people might expect, right, Melissa?
Yes. Great story that I'm actually writing my newsletter this morning, and this story is going into it. So as I started as the literacy enrichment teacher at a school here in Charlotte, I walked in and there's no alphabet line up in any of the classrooms. And I was like, where's the alphabet here? And the response was like, well, we're a play-based school, so we don't do that. And so that was like, well,
wait.
Yeah, I'm like, luckily
they can still be.
Yeah.
You mean? I was going to say, I'm a play-based school. We definitely do
exactly.
You mean there's no like alphabet line up on the wall?
Like no
really?
alphabet chart.
No visual support. Okay.
No visual support. So luckily the director very open to all sorts of things. But so that was just like, it brings to the perspective of like everybody has a different idea and thought about what literacy does look like, right? And so I don't think there's necessarily one perfect way, but when I think of like a literacy rich classroom, I think of, we have the alphabet attainable to children. Easy things like you're going to create a little bin with writing materials that you get to take out to recess. And now you're going to write speeding tickets and a clipboard if you want to hunt for letters. You're going to hang formation charts, and you have paper in all the centers so that during that free play, they have that option, and they could even look if they want to practice writing their letters correctly. There's a visual there. We have felt boards to retell the stories. We have a place with puppets where maybe we did our game during our whole group and now it transfers to that center time. So it's really can look so different in every classroom. I think it starts with that intentionality, right? And the biggest is language. Like you're talking, you're engaging with your children. I'm like, when you walk in, it should be apparent that the teacher is involved, right? No matter what time of day. I know it's exhausting, but even just sitting on the floor next to them while they're playing, even if you just need a break, that is what literacy is all.
Yeah.
You could do toot toot Zoom and then have them write speeding tickets for the fox. Like going too fast up that mountain.
I mean, I think any of the programs that use rating scales, I mean, it's in our rating scales that you should have a print-rich environment. So whatever that looks like, right?
Yeah.
So for some people that might be, letters on the wall. Other people might be, spread out throughout the classroom. On the clock says clock and the chair says chair. And but you do need to have a print-rich environment so children are immersed and that's part of their world. We're surrounded by words all day long. We drive by them, right? Every sign, everywhere. How can directors tell the difference between a classroom that simply displays letters and books and a classroom that truly supports language and literacy?
Mm. Mm.
Yeah,
I mean, I think let me start by saying when I was growing up, so I live in Alabama and I grew up in rural Alabama and we didn't have a library. Um, and so I'd never encountered story time, until I mean my parents read to me, but I never encountered an actual story time until I remember I went with a friend's babysitter to a public library and there was a man uh, and he had his guitar and he was playing some Raffi songs. And I remember it to this day. And I think he maybe, read one book and played his guitar. And it was just a really formative experience. And then I never really encountered it again until I came back to public libraries. And what I thought of as story time was like kids sitting while a book was being read to them.
Yeah.
And that is perhaps for older children, once we get into, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. And of course, we can still have seated story times, but tons of movement and singing, participation in the story. I think like just because even if story time looks more vibrant, than and are a little louder than you might expect, it doesn't need to be this shh thing all the time. For especially little children, they need to be involved and really bringing the story to life and embodying the concepts and embodying all the stuff. And you can absolutely do that while they're seated, right? There's plenty of movement we can do with the upper half of our bodies. So I would say sometimes there's a misconception that's like, oh, wow, what are we doing? This looks so they're not sitting and listening quietly. And I'm like, yeah, but they're engaged.
Yeah.
Right? I would
love
look for
that.
the engagement rather than the compliance or what we think of as
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's the perfect word, compliance. It's the perfect word.
exactly.
All right.
And-
So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And I was going to say, I think it could just take literally like walking into a story time and within a moment, you could tell like, are these kids engaged? Are we doing more than just reading? Part of our alphabet system, we flip through people's names to look for the
Yes.
letters and like they're screaming out, that's my name. They're so-and-so. Like, and now right there that teacher has made it fun and engaging because if not, they're not doing those things. So
At a young age. I see that in my programs at a
Yes.
young age.
Very.
They do not need to wait for kindergarten. I see
Absolutely not.
toddlers doing
No.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see toddlers identifying names of theirs and their
Yeah.
friends in
And they
class.
can.
Absolutely.
And I had the opportunity for many years, my role in the public library I worked at was the preschool outreach specialist. So I had a really unique opportunity to go to all of the preschools in my area. So I would do the same story time for, 11 different schools. And so I can tell when I come in who has been doing this with them and who has not.
Yeah.
It is a soft skill that they develop, this group participation. And it's also so good for their social development because they understand that we're doing this together as a group.
Yeah.
They can also be read to one-on-one, one-on-two at home, of course, but that group collaboration is a skill that will serve them for years to come and really help their teachers once they get to elementary school.
Yeah, agreed. So as we start to get a little closer to the end of the episode, I want to talk about the music part a little bit. So why are music and movement such effective tools for supporting language and literacy development?
There's a ton of reasons. Melissa, you start.
Well, first, oh my goodness, this is a big question because with our song that we created and with our system that we use, I mean, movement is number one. So it's basically sending another like pathway to your brain. So you're now learning it in multiple ways. And so that's just the movement part of it. So we're seeing it and now our body is moving it and it's forming the sound the way that the sound produces it. So for instance, using our song and flashcards, like B is a quick sound. So our movement is quick. we're swinging it back. F, we're going to extend that sound. So our movement is long and slow. So now we have added in not only movement, but now a movement with a purpose. And then when you add in the music part, Alyssa, you can share a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I would describe so everything she said, and then the music kind of just acts as a container for everything. Music is one of the, and you can think about it that way in multiple different learning situations. Music is a container. It organizes things for people, not just children, in a different way. So we do that in the song through various rhythm, through melody, through changing a pitch ever so slightly, through going back to a familiar chorus, to making it easy enough to still chant it if you need to chant it instead of sing it. So there's a ton of things. And music is also just very regulating. And I think movement is very regulating for kiddos. It locks them in a way that, really just like a worksheet or even just doing something more loosely without that container of the music. Right. Like it just makes all of the systems fire. And especially it has other benefits as well. I mean, the cross-lateral movement will strengthen the midline of their brains. And then the movements are not automated, first of all. So they have to repeat them. And that's very important to remember that it needs to be done many times. It's okay if they don't get it the first several times. They probably won't. I didn't. But once I started doing it, I was like recording Melissa's song and I was like doing her movements. And I was like, oh my gosh, this makes sense. Now when I'm like working with my second child, this will make a huge difference for her. My first child could have benefited from this so much.
So you guys recently released a new song. Tell us the title and the story behind it.
Yeah, it's called the Move With Me phonics song. And it is based on Melissa's fabulous work, which I'll let her describe the story behind her flashcard system and her curriculum in general.
Sure.
Yeah. So we have these flashcards, which we teach the whole body movements to teach letter names and sounds in early childhood classrooms. And after we did a pilot study, we found that I would go into some very diverse preschool classrooms, and it was very hard. So the teachers, I would try to teach the sounds, I would try to teach the motions, and it's hard. Like you're trying to teach someone who's been teaching for 40 years that they're saying the B incorrectly, could be difficult. So one day I walked in.
The schwa is hard. The schwa is hard.
Yes,
Listen.
Yes. It's tough. So one day I walked in and a teacher was holding up her phone, which with the flashcards is just a terrible video of me being like, ah, ah, ah. I'm doing the motions, but not that I want children to be staring at a screen, but what it did was it took out that user error of we're teaching things incorrectly. And so her classroom actually made the most growth. They did amazing. And I was like, wait a minute, what if I make this a system that is my own song that shows the names and produces the sounds correctly? And then we can make a huger impact. So Alyssa and I had just connected on social media. I love what she does. And so I reached out and said, hey, here's my flashcards we use. Here's the motions. And then she literally just rocked it, knocked it out of the park. It was amazing. So happy.
Thank you.
So as we start to wrap up, what do you guys that I haven't asked you already?
Can you repeat that one time for me?
Erica, I think you're
Sure.
breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, I did break up a little bit. I think it's my internet is a little crazy. It's raining out here today. So I said, is there something you would like to share with the audience that I haven't asked you already?
I will
Did I
share
freeze?
that children are capable of such amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
that is one of my biggest beliefs. And I know, Erica, you already hit on that when you brought in, the 2-year-olds and the things that they can do. So I just encourage you to think about literacy and how you can be a little bit more intentional and not being afraid to think that, it's not developmentally appropriate. If you make it fun and engaging, children deserve it and they need it. And so I guess my biggest thing would be to take that time to plan a little bit more intentionality, and amazing things can happen.
Love that. I would say,
Yeah.
I think piggybacking off of that, I think, in working with, so I right now I work across the U.S. and a little in Canada and Australia with folks, and I think like when directors invest in programs like Melissa's curriculum or my program like Storytime Central, professional development that is created by people who have really done this work, I think that makes a huge difference, because we know that these educators are superheroes, but coming in and saying, oh, you're such a superhero, that only goes so far. Like they need the tools that are developed by people who've done this over and over and over and who have seen results, that know it's joyful and it works and it's fun for everybody and it's not putting more work on them, right? So I think like really investing in that kind of professional development for teachers is so, so important. And just what a joy to get to work with the best humans on earth, early childhood educators, public librarians doing story time, and of course, the kiddos and families that we serve.
And that investment benefits you as a director because guess what? The families rave, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, what is my child doing? Why we're singing this song? We're clapping syllables. Like, what is happening? Like, I've seen it firsthand. And then guess what? That comes back to you as a director because now people want to go to your program. They want to enroll. And so it really benefits you from the full circle aspect as well.
Yeah. I love it. That's a great note to end on. To my listeners that are listening today, one of the things I want to say is one of the most important reminders from today's conversation is that literacy does not begin with a worksheet. Please, it doesn't begin with a worksheet, it doesn't end with a worksheet. It begins when a child hears a caring adult speak to them. It grows when a child can sing a familiar word or repeat a rhyme or clap out syllables or tell a story or even ask questions. Pretend to run a restaurant, dance along to a song. In real life experiences, those experiences may look playful, and they are, but they are building language. They are building confidence and comprehension and communication skills. And that's what we should be seeing in classrooms across the globe. So thank you, ladies, so much for being a guest on the Child Care Directors Share podcast. And to my listeners, I love you. Thank you for tuning in today and every day. See you soon.
Before you go, ask yourself, what's one leadership lesson you'll put into action this week? Then share one takeaway with your leadership team, because Erica believes that great leaders don't just grow themselves, they help others grow too. Ready to keep growing? Join Erica inside the ECE Trailblazers Leadership Membership at childcaredirectorschair.com. Proudly sponsored by Watch Me Grow. Together, we believe leadership isn't a title, it's an action. And we'll save your chair for next time.